hey, girls, we're so glad that you've tuned into Braveheart Talks today. Wherever you are listening to this episode, we hope that it blesses you, that it helps you. We are in part 4 of our series, Reinventing Yourself in New Seasons. And I am super excited for this conversation because it's all about how we navigate the in between seasons. So, Emma, let's get going. I think this is it's a great conversation because so many of us feel like we live in the in between. But let's talk specifically. What does that mean? Or give some examples of where we could find life where we feel like we're in between.
Yeah, so in between seasons, and I think it's important that we have grace for ourselves for the in between
Yeah.
seasons of life, because yeah, the in between, I think, in naturally speaking, life finds us in between stages so many
Yeah.
times. When you're a teenager, you're no longer a child, but you're not quite an adult. You are in between, and it's the awkwardness that comes with that. Whereas I still need, like, you know, I still need parenting,
Yeah.
but I want to do it all by myself as well. Pregnancy as another, well, even before pregnancy, let's go to dating.
Yeah.
That's an in between stage, right?
Yeah.
You're no
Not
longer
married,
single,
not
but you're
single.
not married. So you can't do all the things married people do, but neither can you act as though you're single and you're in this in between season. And then pregnancy is another in between. You are not yet a mum, but you are a mum,
Yeah.
but you have got a baby, but you haven't got a baby.
Yeah.
And it's in between. I can't do all the things I used to do. I'm pregnant. I'm in this stage, this pause in life. That's what it feels like. Let me tell you, menopause is another in between stage. You're not there yet, Meg, but that's like you've no clue who you are or where you are,
Yeah.
the best of times. And so life in the natural has these times of finding us in between seasons and in between places. But the same can be said spiritually speaking as
Yeah,
well,
very good.
because we're all on a journey. We're praying and believing for an answer, but we're not living in the fulfillment of
True.
that answer yet.
Yeah.
We know that God has promises for our lives, but we're not in our promised land season in our life yet. Faith is the whole of faith is an in between stage. That's what faith is. It's the pregnant pause. It's the waiting. It's the, I know where I am, but I know where I want to be. And so I'm in faith, and it's the waiting season.
Yeah.
So yeah, in between is,
Yeah. It feels
it's
like
hard.
you're giving them examples. It feels like we actually don't ever catch a breath while we're not in between. So I think everyone who's listening can relate to this because we're all going to find ourselves somewhere on the pendulum of in
Yeah.
between the waiting and
Yeah.
the promise.
Yeah.
So considering so many of us are living it, why do you think it's so uncomfortable? Because it really does it doesn't feel the nicest when you're very aware of, I just don't feel like I'm where I'm meant to be or what the vision is or, in that awkward stage. Why do you think it's so uncomfortable?
I think it's unsettling because you can't settle. It's a bit like being on a journey in the natural. If you are traveling, then you hit destinations, and in those destinations you might stay and you might spend a week or two there, and then you move on. Well, the in-between stages of life, it's the journeying through life, and there's something that can't be avoided, because if we want to get from A to B, then we have to, or rather I should say, if we want to have to go from A to C, we've got to journey through B. And so it just means that we are in transition a lot in life, naturally speaking, physically speaking, emotionally speaking, and spiritually speaking. We go through these transition periods. And it is the in-between stages are aware of where I was, knowing where I'm not yet, and I am somewhere in between. But they are necessary. They are necessary seasons in our life. And what can happen, why we find them so frustrating, is because they can be at a point in life where you find yourself romanticizing about the past and fantasizing about the future. You create memories of the past that perhaps are not always true. We create memories of the past and we romanticize them. We fluff them out. We paint them more colourful than they actually were, then we're fantasizing about the future because we're not in it yet. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be new. And when I am, then I will be, and then I will do. And when I'm a mum, it's going to be like this. And when I'm married, life is going to look like this. And when I get the answer to my prayer, it's going to be like this. When I get the breakthrough, it's going to be like this. So we're not actually embracing the moment we're in because we're either romanticizing what was or fantasizing about what will be. And that's what makes the in-between stage feel so difficult.
Yeah. And I think other words that we use in the same regards to an in-between is we feel hidden, or we feel like it's a waiting season. Often it feels like you said, like you're waiting for the next thing. You're not embracing the now.
Yeah.
Like you're waiting, or you feel like no one sees me right now in this season I'm in. What do you think God is doing? Because God is always up to something.
Yes.
So what is he up to when he makes us, have these seasons of waiting and a hiding season? What is he usually up to?
So in my experience, and actually when you read through different accounts in the Bible, you discover that actually I think God does some of his greatest work in the wilderness. It's in the place where it's not the place where you're settling, it's the place you're journeying through. It's not necessarily where you want to be, but God does his greatest work there. God never wastes in between seasons or wilderness seasons.
Yeah.
I think I call them hallway seasons. The hallway is when you've left one room and you're going into another room, but you've got to journey through the hallway. But that hallway season, God always works in that place. So, and the way he works most often is on our character. And I think the length of time we spend in the in-between season, heaven is never in a rush. Heaven has its own speed. It's never in a rush. God very rarely does something to your time frame. So when we are in the between stages, sometimes it can just feel like we're in this state of not knowing for such a long time. And I've been here for what feels like forever. Whereas I think we need to start asking, look, God, what is it that you're doing in me? Like maybe so the children of Israel, they were going to the promised land, and they were going to the promised land, but it took them 40 years, if you remember the story. And we know it should have taken them 7 days because the journey from Egypt to Israel was a 7-day journey, but they got lost and they went round and round the mountain the same time. And it was actually the grumbling and the complaining that delayed the journey. And what God was actually showing them was, you have come out of Egypt, but Egypt is still in you. And so I need to, and you can't take Egypt, the character of Egypt, into the promised land, because that is for a new breed of people. And so he allowed them to walk around the wilderness, the in-between season, for 40 years, because he was developing something in their character. And the speed at which they learned their lessons was actually down to them. And I still think that's the way that God works today. The speed of which we're willing to learn is down to us, but he never wastes. If you think about Joseph when he was thrown into the pit and then he ended up in the prison, and Joseph was like 25 years in a prison, but he kept his countenance right before God. He allowed God to work on his character, and he still allowed God to use his gifting, which was being the discerner of dreams, even in the prison. Joseph didn't say, I'm not where I want to be. This is not how life should be. Therefore, God, until you do something for me, then I'm not going to carry on in this way. I'm not going to carry on praying to you or talking to you. I am just going to sit in this prison and rot away and sulk and wait till the day you do something for me. Joseph was still used mightily by God when he interpreted the dreams of the bread maker, the baker, and the
candlestick maker.
Candlestick maker. That's what I was
It's a nursery rhyme.
the butler, the baker, the candlestick maker. When he interpreted all those dreams, and finally he interprets the king dream.
Yeah.
And he's taken from this place of in between to a place of prominence, made prime minister of the land. And that was because he didn't waste the in between season being miserable about his circumstances and just wondering what God was up to. He's like, God, you're going to use me. So when you're in the hallways of life and it feels like nothing is happening, just, God, what's the gift you've given me? Because I'm still going to use them. Before I get to there, I'm still going to use and allow you to use me in ways, not be my choosing, but I'm still going to allow you to use me.
Yeah, and it's all in his timing, and it's trusting in his promises, isn't it? Because we can so easily, I think we get impatient, and I think we push into seasons, and then we burn out and we wonder, why have I burnt out? And it's like you pushed into that too fast, out of God's timing, out of his anointed, and that's why you burn out, because he will never put anything on us that's too heavy. He will never, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. So that's only when we're in his alignment and we're doing it in his timing. Because it's so easy now, especially this generation, to fast track seasons and to push into the next and to always want the next, or to even, they've not got given an opportunity, so they make one for themselves and they push too fast. And it's like he's never really, he doesn't do things fast. He does things slowly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the timing is right and it will evolve. So I think in this season as well, it's important to, prayer is so important in this season. So talk to us about how should we shape our prayers during a season of waiting, during the in-between? What should our prayer life look like? How can we shape it to help us?
Okay, that's a really valid point there, because the world measures by output and God measures by obedience. So the world is always going to look at, what are you doing? What have you achieved? How far have you come in practical terms? And they measure success by the output, the external works. But God is after obedience. And some of the things of obedience, they're decisions of the heart, and they're not necessarily what other people will see, but God knows. Like, I'm being obedient in my heart. God knows when you're sad. God knows when you feel rejected. God knows when you feel lost or burdened. He knows when you're angry and frustrated. He knows when life is not going as you thought it would be. He knows who did what to you, when, and what was said to you. God knows all of those things. And through all of the different seasons in life, he's monitoring and measuring your character.
Yeah, very good.
And he is like, can you still be obedient to me, even when the feelings are not feeling it? Can you still be obedient to me? Walk in my ways, talk my language, be that person that I've called you to be, even when it looks like your life is failing. And in the life of Joseph, that's exactly what we see. We see that his character and his conduct didn't alter, even though his circumstances were horrific. And so our prayer life should literally be like, as David prayed, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit in me. And we should be praying that daily. It's like, God, this day is not looking like I wanted it to look, but give me the grace for this day today, and renew a right spirit in me, and help me, even though an injustice has been done to me, help me be the one who's kind to someone else. Even though wrong words were spoken to me, let me use my words to edify and build somebody else up. Even though my heart is broken, just use me to be the healer of someone else's heart. And allowing God the freedom to be able to still use you when life may feel like it's being unkind to you. You have two choices: sit and wallow in the misery of what is, or say, this doesn't change who God's called me to be. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to be that person anyway.
And I think it's in the prayer where God grounds you and he helps you, because it's often in between. The hardest is when we compare and we look to the left.
Yes.
And we look to the right, and they're doing that at this age. And it's in the comparison. But when you center yourself back in prayer to God and just you and Him, it's like, no, you've got a plan for me, and I'm gonna stick to what your will is for me.
Yeah.
And I go on.
I was just thinking when you said that then, honoring God, um, being obedient to God and honoring God is when you honor the season you are in,
Yes.
you're honoring God.
Mm.
It's not about when life is good, God must think I'm good and therefore he's blessing my life. God is blessing your life all of the time. But honoring him is about, despite what the season means, I am going to be respectful of where I'm at, and I'm not going to criticize myself in this place, but I'm actually going to use kind words to myself, and I'm going to see the best, think the best, believe the best, and believe that God will bring out the best, even in the season that I'm in that I don't like being in right now.
I think as well, we always talk about God as a plan for us, and we don't know in detail the plans He has
Yeah.
for us. We know and we can trust they're good. And I think, for me personally, I've got in seasons where I feel like I don't see the promises, I don't see, I have to go back and say, God, give me vision what my future is in your plan. Like, and when you've got vision, so maybe you vision yourself having kids, or you envision yourself in a marriage, or you envision yourself doing whatever it is that, your
Yeah.
dreams are. I always find I hold tight to that vision, because in the days where it doesn't look like it's happening, I'm like, God, I do believe this vision is from you
Mm.
for my life. I think, it's good to have vision for your life. On the days where I feel like it's not happening, I go back to that vision. But also I'm aware of going to God and saying, God, is this vision from you? If it's not, take it away, take these desires away, give me fresh vision so I can, hold fast to that in the seasons where it's not happening. But
I
go on.
love that as well, what you've just said, because when we have vision for our lives in the natural,
Yeah.
we are like vision board queens, mainly Pinterest queens,
Yeah.
right? We put it out there. We build vision boards.
Yeah.
Maybe you do it through the Pinterest app, or some of you might still be old school vision boards, and you're putting pictures
Paper.
before you. And the Bible actually tells us, doesn't it, to write down the vision, put it before us, so that he who reads it may be able to run. But vision's full of detail. And sometimes when we're just glancing at it, we're missing the detail. And I love what you said about going back to it, revisiting it regularly, because there will always be things you didn't see and things you may have missed. And I think when you get a vision from God for your life as well, it's not just getting a general idea, but it's about going back to God regularly and saying to him, have I missed any detail?
Yeah.
Like, let me explore that. Oh, you said this, God, about my life. You said this about my marriage. Let me explore that in a little bit more detail. What does that actually look like for me? And not just having a generalized idea of a vision for your life.
Yeah, love it. And last question, before we wrap up this episode, what encouragement would you give to anyone who feels stuck? They feel like they're not where they used to be. They've evolved, but actually they're not where they believe God is taking them to be. Like, we've almost just kind of touched on that, but what encouragement would you give to that girl who just...
Yeah. The in between seasons of your life does not mean you are forgotten. It means you're being formed. And so you need to embrace those in between. In between seasons doesn't mean I'm lost. It just means I'm loitering and I'm waiting for God's, for God's moving, for God's orchestrating of my life. And so it's really easy in those hallway seasons. If you think about a hallway in the natural, you think about there's activity going on in this room, there's activity going on in the room down there. But when you're in the hallway, you're often you don't belong to either party. But they are just great seasons to go, okay, God, I've left that room. I'm wanting to go in that room. What do you need to form in me, the character, the version of me? Make me strong enough to be able to deal with everything that's in that other room, like all of the conversations that I'm going to encounter, all of the difficulties I'm going to have to navigate. What does life look like for me? Sometimes we're just in such a rush to get from place to place to place to place to place. We are we're kind of missing out on that in between. I remember when we were children, my dad took us several times, but we would go in the car, towing a caravan and drive to the south of France before the tunnel. So we would literally drive all the way down to the south of England. Then we would get the boat across to France. Then we would drive all the way through France down to the southern part. And honestly, these journeys took forever. It would take us 4 days just traveling. And my dad would want to stop off at every village through that journey down through France and give us some history, take us to a castle, show us a wall, take us to an old monastery, take us to a vineyard. And he will have read up on the history. And then he'd want to give my brother and I a history lesson all the way down. And I would just be, I just want to get there. But as an adult now, when I look back on that, I just think I'd find that so interesting. Like, I'm being educated along the way. I'm learning some new information along the way. And immaturity says, just get me there, just get me there. I just want to be there now. But you know, when you're pregnant, you're learning all about that child. You've got to, there was
Imagine
9
if we
months.
didn't have the 9 months and it came the next day, we would not be ready.
You wouldn't know what to do with it. It
No.
would be like, what do we do with this? What
But
do
he
we do with
graces
this
us with 9
baby?
months to
But
prep.
it's allowing you that
Yeah.
season of preparation.
Yeah.
So I would just say to anybody, listen, your character is being formed.
Yeah.
Your discernment is growing. Wisdom is maturing on the inside of you. All of these things are happening. You don't know that they're happening, but they are happening. And you are just rooting yourself deeper and deeper into the ways of God so that when you walk into that new room, you are not stressed. You are not anxious. You are not fatigued. You are not overwhelmed by the environment, but you are equipped and you are ready to step into the next season of your life.
I love that. And living in the now and being grateful. There's always lessons to be learned.
Yes.
And, you know, God is in everything. And I think, you know, as we wrap up this series, I want to encourage the girls anyway. We have a Braveheart conference coming up very, very soon. And this series is all looked at seasons. And in every season, girls, whatever you're going through, invest in yourself. Learn, grow, evolve. It's all the things we've been talking about over the last 4 weeks. But what better way to do that than invest in yourself and come in to conference? You can find out all about the tickets, about where it is, what it includes, how you book on. If you're on your own, we have a come on your own group. You can find that all on the website, braveheartconference.co.uk.